All right, I want to say first that my goal here is not to criticize or pick apart your plan. It's to maybe help you out a little bit. First thing that I always do when I'm looking at a plan is turn off these grids, both the reference grid and the snap grid. I don't know how people work with all that stuff. The other thing I typically do is I'm going to go over here to edit, delete objects. I'll clear all to start. And then I'm going to delete automatic dimensions, say yes, and delete manual dimensions. And now when I click on something like a wall, I get just a couple of dimensions, just the dimensions that are necessary to work with that single object. You've got all these temporary points here, and so it's easy to go up here and delete temporary points. I normally work with more info than this. I know a lot of people like working with just the wall main layer showing. I like working with layers. And I also notice that you've got walls invisible turned off, and I'm going to turn those on. And that'll show a lot of errant stuff, like there's a couple walls out here, and I wonder about those. And if you go up to the second floor, you've got all these walls here, and you've got all these walls over here, and all this stuff here. So if you have that turned on, it just kind of helps you keep up with clutter, stuff that maybe there was a use for at one time and there no longer is. I also noticed that you've got like this wall right here. If we go to wall types, that's an interior railing. And so I don't understand why. I think I've seen that elsewhere. There's an interior railing. That's an interior railing. It doesn't look like a railing. That's the thing, is it just looks like a wall, but it's a railing. Just looking at this, I can usually just glance at a plan and figure everything out. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Bedrooms, bathroom. I'm guessing this is a master bedroom, and this is the bathroom and closets and things. The one thing that's not obvious is a kitchen. Now, I have to guess that could be the kitchen, but it's not. It's not clear from looking at the plan. So, I notice these double doors right here are in fact two single doors. And so I'm going to delete this one and take this one and just make it wider. And what happens is that up to a point, you just get a single door. And once you reach a threshold, Chief is going to automatically make that into a double door. But if you want to force it to be a double door, you can open this up and go over here to options and say double door only. And so there's your double door. There's another one of those railing walls. This one, I think, and this one. Again, not sure. They look like a regular wall, so I'm not sure why they're defined as a railing wall. it'd be interesting to know. I'm guessing this is a new house. An old house usually wouldn't have this gigantic garage out here in front. You notice, I don't know if you saw my interpretation. This is your house without that garage sticking out in the front, which to me is far more appropriate for this style house. You would never see a giant 2-story, addition out here in front. You'd see it around here in back, and of course I didn't extend this out to the back, but normally you'd see something out here. I did an auto build roof to start on this and just redid a few things. So back to your house. Another thing that I see really often is, I'm going to go over here and click on this adjust sunlight. I'm going to check generic sun, and I'm going to do sun follows camera, and watch the face of this when I do that. You can see how it brightens up. And when you do that, as you spin the house around, it's always bright wherever you're looking. Now that's not what you want if you want accurate sunshine, but it helps a lot when you're modeling things and just looking at the house in general. I also noticed that you've got framing built, and your question on the forum was about framing. And my suggestion would be to get the house how you want it, and then worry about framing, because you can see, like, there's framing sticking through up here. You can see framing sticking through over here. You probably don't have auto framing turned on for everything, so I would sort of get the structure how you want it. There's a piece of framing over here. Get the structure how you want it, and then worry about framing. Now, speaking of structure, another thing I noticed is that a lot of your dimensions, let me find a good example. Yeah. Speaking of dimensions, I'm going to go up here to defaults, dimension, temporary dimensions, locate both wall sides, and say OK. Done. I think that's what I want. Yeah. And what that does is that gives you from stud to stud on the inside. You could also set this to go from drywall to drywall. But the point I was going to make is that you've got 5 feet 10 and 7/8, 5 feet 2 and 5/8, and a framer's not going to be very happy with those. He's going to want this to be 5 feet 10, and this to be 5 feet 2, or even better, whole 5 feet 6 or 6 feet. Here's something that's 3 feet 9 1/4, 27 feet 8 9/16. All these ought to be half inch minimum. 27 feet 7 3/16. Maybe that should be 27 feet 6 inches. Or maybe it should be 28 feet. Or maybe it should be 27 feet 7 inches. But we don't want things to be 3/16 or 9/16. 4 feet 1 and 7/16. 4 feet and 13/16. You get the idea. 12 feet 2 1/2. That's not bad, but couldn't it be just 12 feet? Or 12 feet 6? Or 12 feet 2 or 12 feet 3. Okay, over here on the front. I'm going to go up here and edit the camera a little bit. You don't really need reflections or bloom. And this edge smoothing when idle, that's what's responsible for dirty corners. That's what I call them, at least. If you run this down, I like it about 10, 12, 15%. Say okay. That'll clean some things up. It's a lot more visible on the inside than it usually is on the outside. Over here on your plan, I noticed that all your columns, they're all a little bit misaligned. It's hard to see, but they are. And I also noticed you built all your columns with walls, which I guess you were thinking that's how they would be built, but that's typically maybe not the way that they would be represented in the plan. And one reason is because here's the top of that column, and normally what you would do is you would create this bottom piece with a solid, a polyline solid or something, and then you would take this piece and the polyline solid that's created this brick part, and you would create an architectural block, and that way they're joined together and you can move them together real easy. And if you don't do that, you're kind of at the mercy of, you got all these parts and pieces that are just difficult to work with. The other thing that I noticed that was kind of unusual, and of course I don't know how this is going to be built. I don't know, you've got a wood floor in here. It looks like you just painted wood on the floor or something, and you've got this little wall right here is a brick wall that's spec'd as a railing. So now you've got brick on the face here. So I don't know if you want brick eventually to go down on your foundation around the porch or what, but you've got all these little individual walls in here that you've now got to manage individually. So I'm going to show you a way. Here's just a little demo that I did. And here's a column. This is just a column from the library, but you can see it's all one piece, so I can move it around as one piece. And you can see that I've done what you did. I've run the railing up to the edge of the column, which is what you show over here. And the way I did that was I'm just going to draw a CAD line here just for convenience. You don't need this. I'm going to take this column and copy it and reflect about this CAD line. That's not what I wanted. Let's try that again. There. Okay. And and I'm going to move this out of the way, that column. What I've done is I put a doorway right here. We'll go back over here to 3D. And I'm going to go to vector view just so this shows up a little better. All I've done is put a doorway right here. And I'm going to Control Z to move that column back. And you can see when I highlight the column, You can see that the rail runs right up against the edge of the column. This outside part is the trim that's that's this trim that's around here. So once you get the column set the way you want it, you just put a doorway in here, and that's just this happens to be a 24-inch wide doorway. And that way you can manipulate the railing all as one piece. Everything stays aligned. It's real easy to control. If you want to change the whole thing, you can just select it and change it. The other thing I've done is I've made this wall thicker, this railing wall thicker. You can come over here to General and notice where the railing is right now. And what I made this wall 10 inches, but I'm going to make it 20 inches. And now you can see how that moves the railing over. So the railing is you can control the position of the railing against the column by making the railing wall thicker or thinner. You know, I can make it 2 inches if I want to, and that's going to move it way out there. And of course it disconnected it from these side pieces, but Control Z, put that back. Anyway, that's just one way of thinking about the columns and the railing, how they work together. And so I can select this door, copy, reflect about that, and that puts the doorway right here. And now if we go back over here, now you can see I've got the same thing. That's all one railing. It's all one railing wall. I also noticed up here that you've got multiple, you've used framing for this, and I guess that's okay if you want it to report to a schedule or something like that. I would typically just use a solid for this. If we look in plan, and I'm going to take a cross section across these. They're all different heights. You can see that if you look over here, you can see how high this railing is and this railing. None of them hit the bottom of that deal. Here we go again. Here's a couple that are high and lower, and you can see you know, I'm not sure why this just isn't drug across over here, making that all one piece. Anyway, if you create a single column, make it the correct height and everything, block it, block this piece and this piece down here, and then use that single column to just copy where you need it across here, then you'll wind up with a lot cleaner look across here, a lot easier. You won't have to be adjusting each individual one as you go along. You've got an invisible wall across here, and if we go back, over here again, you would use where you want an opening. Just place a doorway, and the railing is automatic. You know, it puts a post here on either side, and you don't need to make that automatic or invisible. Just stick a doorway in there. This is getting long. It's going to take. I have a slow internet, and this is going to take forever to upload. So I'm gonna cut this off here. I may have some more later, but this is going to be a good looking house. When it gets built.